can't keep on using my trauma to fuel me, because then I'm keeping it alive. I keep on accessing the memory for energy, but I'm keeping the trauma current alive. I'm not letting the wound heal because I'm getting power from that wound still being sore.
Hey y'all, hello. My name is Brittany Ransom, and welcome back to the Apprentice Podcast, where we're all about amplifying Black inspiration. So we have a brand new guest. We have Rae'Mah Henderson here. We love to see it. She is growing as a leader, really, in business and entrepreneurship and the knowledge of it here in Birmingham, Alabama. So I'm so happy and so excited to have her as a guest. And I'm so excited about our conversation today because she has a lot to offer. We were talking about all day today. She treated me to a nice day, y'all. This girl is so sweet. So I'm so excited to hear for y'all to hear her story and everything. So we'll go ahead and get started. So I want to tell you, I want to ask you first. So who are you and what do you do?
All right. So my name is Rae'Mah Henderson. I currently work as a program manager and investment associate for a venture firm. We're actually, I won't say the name of it, but one of the largest early stage investors in the world. Crazy enough, I know, right? And so that's currently what I do professionally. But other than that, I'm just Rae'Mah.
It's Rae'Mah. Okay, yeah. She said that she's being humble, y'all. But yes, but yes, I do want to ask you about when you first got interested, really, in just the concept of entrepreneurship and in business, because you started pretty young, I imagine, right?
Yeah. So I started out really within business by the exposure of my mother. Mm-hmm. So she's always been very entrepreneurial. I just come from a very entrepreneurial family. My grandmother was an entrepreneur. My grandfather always had ideas coming down the pipeline. He was one of them old men selling Tupperware.
I would love to see it.
And so I got that really early introduction from my mother. And so I don't think I really started capturing into it as to what she was doing until about 3 or 4 years old, that my mother owned her own business. Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of where things started for me entrepreneurially.
Oh, snap. So when did that become something that you just heard and saw with your family? Something that you were like, oh, I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to make this into a real thing for yourself.
I think I started to, I think the first time where I kind of noticed that was something that was possible was when I kind of learned about the importance of money. And not the importance of money, I should say, I take that back. That money could get me things. Okay. The bubble gum and all the things that I was desiring. Yeah. So if I get money, I could buy candy.
Yeah,
Word. Say less. Okay. And so I think I kind of first paid attention to that exchange when I was about 4 years old, and my mom would rent out a table at the flea market, the Bessemer Flea Market, and she would have things for sale, and my only desire, I want to sit on that damn table. I want the snow cone. And so I think I was the first time I visually remember seeing this for that, that actual exchange. This dress for X amount of money. I think I started considering it for something for myself probably around high school area. I think I always wanted to do something that was going to be financially beneficial for my life. And so I thought that was going to be being a doctor. Sis ain't had a grades to being a doctor. And just like many other entrepreneurs, I'm not academically interested in anything that is not engaging to me. So I do very well in the classes that I'm engaged in. If it's outside of that, I'm not studying it. So
that's good, yeah.
Is it? Is it good for my GPA? I think it's
focused on what you want. Yeah,
it's working out for me. It's working out for me. So I thought I wanted to be a doctor, but I strictly was going off of the money that they made. I wasn't thinking about impact or anything like that. I wanted to be a plastic surgeon because my mother exposed me to beauty very young, owning a makeup store. So I was like, okay, those two things mesh and they make good money. I think once I got into high school, though, and I saw, okay, the grades that I was making probably wasn't going to get me into medical school, and I was starting to work more so full-time with my mother, more than I had been working with her, not necessarily full-time, but I was homeschooled, so I only had to go to school 2 days a week. Okay. So the rest of the week, throughout the weekend, also, I would be at work with her. And I'm like, okay, I'm making more money than my peers. I'm touching more money than my peers. Yeah. Being able to count down the register at the end of the day, and it's a family business. You know that's coming into your household. Exactly. So I think that's when I first started considering it for myself. I did not know in what way what it would look like for me, but that's when I think it first clicked.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. That's really young too, because let's see, in high school, I feel like even like, I know you said your grades weren't like where they were needed to be at least for like the standards that they've created really in America. But it's just like, I think it's still cool that you were able to differentiate yourself, I think, from other high school students and be able to be like, okay, like even though I don't meet the standards the way that they seem like they need to be as far as the school goes, like I do have this, I do know what I know what I can do and what I can, how I can succeed with this.
Exactly.
So yeah, but I do want to ask you about what was it, the REV Birmingham pitch competition? Is that what it's called?
Rev Birmingham.
Rev Birmingham. See.
No, it was okay.
REV,
she's not from here, y'all.
Yeah, I'm from Huntsville. You already know, 256. But yeah, so yes, tell me about that experience.
Wow, so that came up through a series of divine intervention. So like I said, high school area is like right when I found out this is something that I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I just realized, okay, I could make a certain level of cash and I don't have to get a degree. Because I had seen my mother be able to make more than a good living for herself doing what she was doing. And so I graduated early. I graduated a few months, like maybe 2 months after I turned 17.
Oh, snap, yeah.
And I just wasn't in my heart to go right off to college. Where we were as a family financially, we really couldn't support it. And it just did not feel right. So I'm like, it's time for me to work. It's like, let me just enter into the workforce. But I didn't want to go and grab a job. I wanted to do something. Yeah. So I was working with my family at the makeup store. And just by happenstance, we were walking along the sidewalk where Urban Impact is here in Birmingham. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys walked out and they saw me and my mom looking at this like empty building. Because we always talk about business ideas together. So it's like, we should open up a yogurt spot. Or wait, we should do this. Or we should open up a bar. Like that's just like how we shoot the breeze with each other. And so we were just looking at this little place for lease. And when they came out, I don't know how this happens. This is why I know it had to be divine intervention. But she was like, yeah. After meeting them and conversing for a few minutes, she's like, my daughter wants to start a business. And I was like, I do?
You're like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I do. You're right. I do. I do. And we had taken a road trip a few months back to Louisiana. I had to like drive through Mississippi. And we ended up stopping at this like salad bar at a Pizza Hut. It's not the neatest or the cleanest place, but when you're in the middle of nowhere and you're hungry. And so we were just like, there should be a business where you can just be able to like get healthy foods or get salads or whatever the case may be, if what's other easiest, making healthy food convenient. And so I was like, okay, well, that's the idea that she said I want to start a business. I guess that's the business idea I'm going to go with. So I'm just going with this idea that came up from the back roads of Mississippi. And Rev came into the picture after somebody I pitched myself everywhere. I'm like, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to do. Just talking, just young and ambitious and bold, baby. Just out here. Yeah, but I was just like, here's the business I want to start. I just knew that I could be able to do it at that age, which that obviously didn't happen. But someone was like, well, there's this pitch competition that gives out money to start to contribute to your businesses. And so I applied for it, but I was 17 at the time. So legally, in order to win money in the state of Alabama, you have to be 18. But girl, I put my damnedest into the application. I guess y'all gonna pick me. And so they let me pitch as a non-competing finalist. So I was able to like do the big demo day with all the other founders, but actually not be competing for cash.
Okay, you said finalist too? Like go to the end?
Yeah, I went to the end. I was a non-competing finalist. Yeah.
Lord, snap! So you were real bold.
I was real bold
because me in high school. I could barely even talk like in high school. So I can't imagine pitching that much.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this. I think the drive for that came from. We were going through a very hard time financially within my family. I'd seen my mom be able to make astronomical numbers of money in her time of being a business owner. And we'd relocated to downtown Birmingham. And it was not the downtown Birmingham that it is today. So no foot traffic. Yeah. There was no one really. And we thought our clientele would follow us, but they just couldn't fathom where we were. We also did have a good bit of like older clientele, so I don't know if it was just like the internet, finding out our new location, or just an overall resistance. I think when things change, there's just a natural resistance to change.
Yeah.
And so we were not making no money, you guys. I'm talking about no money. And it was just to the point where, like, you were deciding between which rents you're going to pay, because you have a store rent, you have your business rent, and expenses in your household. So we were putting everything into the business. So at this point, we had no lights, no water, no nothing at the house. The house is pretty much just a shell that if we wanted to sleep there, that we could go to. And so during that point, I've never even talked about this publicly, but like sleeping in cars, sleeping with family members, taking little odd jobs in order to like facilitate those needs. And so because of that, I probably had a hunger that people didn't understand at that time, but that's where that hunger was coming from, because I think I probably idolized what Rev could do. Although looking back at it, I think that the top prize is like $15,000. It's not life-changing money, I think, but I put it on this pedestal of like that was my North Star. Like if I can get here, then this will change my life.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I was not competing finally, so I couldn't even compete for cash, but it introduced me to the ecosystem in a way that I did not know would affect my life and how it has.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, snap. Yeah, I didn't know about that. Know about that, but yeah, that's awesome. That's a really cool story. And I do want to ask, like, even like from like that point, like you have able to get that experience, and then the pitch competition. A lot of people, like, they have big experience like that, and then they kind of like, okay, cool, this is good to ride. But then you had that ambition, that inner ambition on the inside of you. So what was that like, being to take that competition and be like, okay, now I got the lay of the land, now I'm going to take advantage of this and go farther? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, it definitely, I think, you think things are a lot scarier than they are. And so when I was able to get up on stage and like actually have fun with it, I'm like, oh, okay, hold up, I could do this. I could do this again. And so I don't know how long after, but I know that people at the event had ended up approaching me. Sorry, I'm not speaking to the mic. Had approached me about like helping me get access to capital. But keep in mind, I was still 17, and I just knew how to talk good shit. Like, I just knew, I'm like, I can shuck and jive, but I'm just a kid. I really don't know what I'm doing. And I know people kept on saying, do you have your business plan together? So I went into deep mode of like working on my business plan. There was a guy, he's no longer at Urban Impact, but his name was Elijah, and he would like set up office hours with me, and we probably wouldn't even talk or anything. I would just bring in my laptop and like just working on my business plan. And once that was done, I tried to go raise capital. And see, this is when I say young and bold, I don't mean to be like, see, look how ambitious I was. It was more so of like how delusional I was. Yeah. I put my business plan together, and I can't think of the name of the venture capital firm here in town, but I went up there with my business plan, and at the end of it, it said $256,000 was my ask. And I was like, and I just knew. Yeah. I was like, because I done wrote his business plan. I'm about to get this money. And he was like, so no.
It's okay.
You tried. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Well, because I didn't even think, now looking back, I see like how crazy it was to do that. But they still saw something in me, and they were like, but if you do a food truck, or if you're able to gain this level of these things of like experience, and like you can also like still always come tap us for support, like so still in a very like supportive way. They weren't like damning of like, oh my god, they probably did talk about me after that meeting, but
but you stayed in their mind.
You
stood out. So go ahead.
Look, I was still willing to just try, and then ultimately I did do a few more pitch competitions after that. I think although I think my age was able to get me into a lot of rooms, I think my age was also able to get me a lot of support. But I wasn't able to really be taken seriously because of how young I was. And honestly, looking back, I probably would invest in someone. Yeah, I probably would. I take that back. But I just think it is a hard hurdle to get over. Yeah. How much can you support a young person? So ultimately, after that, I realized, okay, this is not the thing that I was going to do. And I think I did kind of had it like without shame of like, okay, Yobi Salads Express was like, that was cool. And like the experience that it was able to bring me was cool. And so I'm like, okay, so what's the next iteration? So then I kind of ran into like the next phase of Rae'Mah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what is that like of being able to like use that, like what you said, Yobi, taking that from like saying that, okay, I'm going to move on from that and like move on to what's next. How do you like close out that chapter? And a lot of people were just like, I'm going to still figure out how this is going to work and take it as far as I can? How do you know, like, when the right time to close off an idea to get ready for the next?
My bills was passed, dude. That's
okay.
how I knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, because we still had our family business throughout the entire duration of that, but just still having a hard time transitioning to a new location. So I was like, somebody told me, well, there was actually two different things. I thought I was going to learn how to code. And so I had applied at all these like coding boot camps.
Yeah.
And I had also applied for T-Mobile as well.
Yeah.
So I had all these applications out here. And so I'm like, okay, my real intention was to go learn how to code. And, back then there was so much hype around learn how to code, get a $50,000 job, entry level. And I was like, oh, shit, that sounds nice. That sounds nice. And my dad was like, you have to go to college to make $50,000 a year. I'm like, well, not if I learn how to code. And so that was my thing. Is like, okay, let me learn how to code. Ultimately, though, I needed to hear back something soon. I needed to get something shaken. And so the offers came in around the same time, but T-Mobile came first. And I'd already accepted at T-Mobile, so I ultimately didn't go down the coding boot camp method because I needed to get some cash in my hands pretty soon.
Okay.
Just start contributing to like the expenses of my family. So so that next phase of Rae'Mah was becoming a working woman, someone who had never had a job before. So, like, let me go ahead and put together this application and woo these people and get hired. So that was that next phase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And then I think we talked a little bit before this, of course, about how, like, you went from that T-Mobile phase to the very next phase. So I guess, what was that like in T-Mobile, then, like, moving on to the next from there?
I'm so grateful to have a mom that, like, she, even, like, growing up, like, and I'm still going to answer your question, but just to add a little bit of context, she doesn't hide anything. She doesn't sugarcoat. If you want to know the truth, you can ask my mother. And because of that, she always tries to have me prepared for whatever I'm stepping into. So whether that's a few motivating words before I was, like, going to go do a pitch competition, or for her, she felt like she was sending her young child to go work at this corporation because, keep in mind, I actually was still 17. And so
a lot happening at 17.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had lied on my application that I was 18, that I was a year older because I heard somebody else did that and they were making money. So I'm like, babe, I'm about to lie on this application. Damn, this year. And so she was just like, you about to be going in there. You're going to be working with grown people. And for her, I think it was like AKA grown men, because my mama said I came out the womb with a shape. So trying to get my mind right. And so I think that next thing was just like getting prepared to actually, I'd always worked within like almost like an incubator. Like I had always worked in like a very safe environment. I was working with family. The customers, I knew all of them. They'd seen me grow up. And so this is like my first time actually stepping outside of that. And so working at T-Mobile gave me a lot, though. Gave me infrastructure. I feel like I'm the best damn customer service agent if I ever need to be. That customer service side of me is very well developed. I think it also exposed me to like, okay, making money. I wasn't making a ton of money. Like looking back at it, as you grow, you kind of keep moving the arbitrary line of what a lot of money is. But like it felt good to actually be bringing in a steady paycheck and being able to own, certain bills within my household, like paying, whether it's paying off the lights or like, paying my car insurance, paying my car, and like doing those things, taking off the burdens where I can, paying for groceries. So that felt really, really good. And I think that was able to bring more stability into my household as well. And so I kind of rested in that for a little bit. And that steady paycheck, I think who is it? Robert Kiyosaki?
Kiyosaki,
with Rich Dad Poor Dad, so never take the paycheck. I can see why, because it definitely has some security in it, and that ultimately led me to the reason why I left.
Really? Yeah. Oh, so you realize this is okay, but yes, I'll let you tell the story. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Well, it's not just that though. I tried to move up at T-Mobile. I was trying to elbow as much as I could. And then I think I realized, I'm like, no matter how good your metrics were, it's when the companies are that large, it's very hard to move up. People are in their roles for tens of years before they even, and some people, are just in the same role. I knew people that had been working for almost 20 years just doing customer service.
Okay. You're just like.
Yeah, and so I'm like, so I'm making $15. And you probably making just $17. And you in your 40s,
okay.
This is not where I want to go. And so I had this random thought one day. I'm like, how much money do I want to be making by the time I'm X age? And so that number, in my mind, 28 has always been a special number to me because I was born on the 28th. So I'm like, by 28, I want to make $800,000 a year.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so this T-Mobile bullshit ain't gonna shake to get me to that number. Yeah. And so I think I played the role of being a very good employee and trying to do the best I can and like having good metrics. And then I even when people would come into town from like the headquarters, I try to introduce myself and make really good impressions. And so one of the vice presidents of T-Mobile of the East region, his name is Wani Manasseh, black man, really cool, super dope individual. And I introduced myself and I was like, and I've been studying insights. Like I've been studying consumer insights data, like behavioral data, and I really feel like I contribute to T-Mobile in that way because I feel like that's how I'm able to keep my numbers up because of what I've been studying, just within like behavioral science.
Yeah.
I tried to start a certification course with like the insights company that T-Mobile had used, and so I kind of was like, look at me, look at me, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, yeah, well, let me put you in touch with so and so, and so he put me in touch with this woman, and so he pretty much gave me a recommendation of like, hey, this is some talent that you should look at as far as within potentially growing your team. And I remember I had a call with her, and I don't know if this was the first call or maybe the second, but in so many ways, not even in so many words, these are literally what she said. She was like, it takes a certain level, a certain age and a certain level of executive maturity in order to be on her team.
Oh.
So I took that as, because she probably heard my little sweet, squeaky voice.
Okay. She was
over
like,
the phone.
Yeah,
this little young girl trying to make it on my team.
Maybe got a little intimidated too. Maybe just a little.
Yeah. And she had like given me her background of like, because I worked for T-Mobile for X amount of years before getting to this department, then another X amount of years before getting to where I currently am. And I was like, okay. Well, because I don't believe in those steps. I don't know. There's just certain rules that I don't believe in. I'm like, I can go from A to Z. I don't believe in having to take all the steps. If I want it, what steps do I need to take to just skip over that?
Yeah. And
so that I just had the mindset of, if I have the talent, then I should be able to go ahead and get it. I was not going to pledge fealty to T-Mobile for umpteen thousand years for going there. And so I think once I realized, even with that type of recommendation, that it just was not going to be something that was going to work out, I realized I need to go to a startup. I ended up interviewing at a few startups. Nothing could really match the pay of what I was making at T-Mobile, though, at the time. And especially with the responsibility that I had taken on for my household and for my family, it would be a little destabilizing to go to making a lower amount of money. Because at this point, I wasn't, like, flossing. I was still wearing my same cute clothes from the thrift store, because you somebody as long as you got clean drawers on. You don't, but I wasn't spending money on myself. I was really spending it on my family. So I couldn't go to like a lower pay. And I stayed at T-Mobile and I hated it. But although I'm really grateful for it, I think it got me all the experience that I needed to have. And I think it ultimately made me look really impressive to where I went next. After almost 3 years, I left by accident. They saw me. I had decided in my mind that I was just going to bet on myself. Even if I just had to like just do the family business and just do eyebrows and just do makeup, that is what I was going to do. And I ultimately, like I was telling you earlier, I was messaging on Slack. I was like, hey, HR, like, how do I need to like exercise this stock? Like, how I pull out this 401k? And this was during the pandemic, so this is like when they were like watching, they could monitor your activity on your computer.
Oh my goodness.
And then so I got a call from like the manager, like it's not a supervisor, but like the supervisor's manager. And I was like, hey, we saw you like messaging on your computer, and are you like leaving? And I was like, because I didn't know what they were calling for. And I'm all nervous. And he was like, I was like, yes, I am leaving. I am. And I like pulled up my phone real quick and got the calendar, and I was like, okay, 2 weeks from today I'm leaving on the 21st. So I like left like the week before Thanksgiving.
I love that.
But it felt so freeing. And because at that point I was like experiencing so much micromanagement, not having enough power with like, I don't want to say power within my role, but just like, I do not respond well to like authoritarians. Like, it's like, hey, Rae'Mah, can you do this for me? Like, I can do that, but I don't like that whole do this right now. And like, I very much so would just respond to tone and like energy. Yeah. And so like, it just was not the best energetic environment. But I think we're all in a weird space with the pandemic. But I was like, even to the last day, like my manager at that time, like I was like, she was like, because, I want to have a last one-on-one with you because you just never know. You might come back. And this was like the bitch I couldn't stand at this point. So I'm like, baby, I'm never coming back. Never, ever, ever in life. You will never see me at T-Mobile again. Thank you so much. Bye. But still very sweet, I promise. But of course. Then I was, I ended that job. And then I told you earlier today, like, what is I'm going to do? I didn't quit by accident. I ain't had nothing lined up. How am I going to pay my bills? Because at this point, me and my mom have purchased a house together. Because we got a house in my name, but we worked both to pay it. And then she ended up facing health issues. So I was like covering everything, And so I'm like, how am I going to pay this motherfucking mortgage? Oh, shit. See, all that shit you was talking. And then, I don't know, but I really did have faith in the Lord. But I'd watched my mother take steps out on faith. I ain't never had to do it for myself. So this is like adulting spiritually, one-on-one. Like, okay, so now, you've watched your parents walk out on faith. Now it's your turn. And 2 days, not to my knowledge, but 2 days later, I actually got offered a manager position at a startup here in town, paying more money and everything. But all throughout Thanksgiving, I was like, my uncle was in town. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm like having my whole nervous breakdown. I don't even want to buy Thanksgiving dinner because I'm like, I need to save my money.
Yeah, like, sorry, I'm taking.
Yeah, exactly. I'm out here applying to all the jobs. And I'm thinking like, well, my plan in my mind is like, I said I'll be able to do makeup. Baby, it wasn't enough eyebrows I could touch at that time. Like, I just couldn't get the money in my hand. In like the first week of December, I remember like checking my LinkedIn because I like been applying through websites, but I completely disregarded LinkedIn. And I was like, oh no, not them DMing me about a manager position. And I was like, hey, is this a role still available? And she's like, no, this role is filled. I went on the website. I went on Landon's website. I was like, okay, what about this role right here? I see it's a step below the manager's role, but it was still, it was like a community manager. I'm like, but I'm willing to do it. And I think I had on my profile at that time, like $23 an hour is what I was looking for. Yeah. And this circles back to it, but I had updated my LinkedIn maybe like 6 months prior, like all of it, like everything I did at T-Mobile, like all my notes, I had like cleaned it up and everything. And I like added like all like my customer service experience. And so that, let alone, you don't even know how you're manifesting things for yourself, because that's actually what attracted them to reach out to me, like through the algorithm. And so she was like, okay, that role actually is available, and I can get an interview on so-and-so date. And I remember in the interview, she was like, I was getting paid like $15, $18 at T-Mobile at the time. And she was like, it's only $20 an hour, though. Like, is that acceptable for you? And I was like, sold. You say less. I'm here for it. Yeah. When can I start? I can start next week. I didn't want to be like, I'm unemployed. I'm like, I'm still working for T-Mobile, but they'll understand. Look. And so, I ended up starting that job January of 2021, my first true startup. And that was the company Landing. Yeah.
That's so awesome. So you went through a lot. Wait, that was, because you're 17 when you started T-Mobile. And how long? You said 3 years?
Yeah, almost 3 years. It was like 2 years and 9 months that I was there. So I left there at 19.
19. Oh, snap.
No, that's a lie. 20.
Okay.
Sorry.
Man, that's still young. That's like, I can't, like, I know, maybe me, I went to traditional, like, college route and everything, so I can't even imagine myself, like, in something like that. So that's like pretty big decisions to make, but yes, that's really awesome.
Thank you.
What was, like, I guess, would you, like, looking back at yourself, like, in that time, would you have any advice for yourself going through that, whether it's at T-Mobile or making these big changes, now looking back at where you were?
I think this is something that I actually give myself, like, when I'm having, like, really anxious or overwhelming moments now, like, in my present-day life, is, like, if I could tell anything to my past self, I would just let her know that everything was going to be okay, that everything ended up working out to her good, and there was the things that she feared, there was nothing really to be afraid of, right? And so if I could free her of some of the anxiety that she had, I would tell her, like, girl, it's gonna be okay. Like, I can't tell you, like, everything that was lined up on the path, but, like, it's all gonna work out. And I think I would have allowed myself to go a little bit more with the flow, because I think what ended up happening is because I was in that, like, fight or flight mode and that survival mode for so long, and I used that as my nourishment, like, to be ambitious. Like, I use that as my nourishment to be hungry. Like, I use, like, my negative experiences or anything that I was going through to kind of, like, fuel myself to be hungry for, like, certain goals. And so that ended up just leading me to be burnt out. And so I would have actually went back and told myself, like, rest, you know, like, you can have goals in mind, but you don't have to leave yourself out to pasture. You don't have to sacrifice yourself in order to be successful. So I would tell her, don't be scared, breathe, everything gonna be all right, and don't move into that little house because it's cheap and it's by the projects, because that ultimately is a bad decision, Rae'Mah. That's the other thing I would tell her.
Yeah. When you and mom both picked out the house?
Not the current house that I'm staying at, but there was a house before that, and that's when I had accidentally moved into the deep hood. I said, damn, I know.
You're like,
this is the projects. I thought I was, you know, like, oh, the projects are just across the street. This house is the project. Okay. Yeah, but let me not interrupt. Get us off track.
No, you're good. You're good. I do want to ask about, like, where you went from drawing energy. I know you said you drew energy kind of, like, from, like, from a negative space. How'd you go from drawing it from there to, like, drawing some place that actually, like, fuels you? Or I don't know if it's, like, through spiritually or if you do something else, or what was that transition like to, like, realize that, okay, this is not going to be healthy for me in the long run. I need to change over what I'm doing.
Yeah, and you know what? I think certain things work to your benefit in certain seasons of your life. Yeah. Because I feel like having that mindset got me through a lot, because, you know, there's only so much I can share on this podcast, but I had crazy experiences throughout, like, my adolescence years, from just, like, you know, step parents who were, you know, unknowingly battling, like, actual serious drugs addictions, and that putting our family into, like, just very bad, you know, circumstances at points. And so I use those things, like, I metabolized all of those negative circumstances to become motivation. So, like, that was my way of, like, being motivated. Even if I, like, would go to the gym or anything, like, from that age all the way up until about maybe 19 or so, like, I'd use my negative experiences to fuel me. And I think that's what a lot of people do, and I think it's something that's also promoted within, like, that motivational cultic society. Yeah, because, like, if you look up motivational videos on YouTube, they're like, get up, you know, like,
literally, yes. Always yelling.
Prove them wrong. And, like, that used to be my judge. Like, I was deep in it. I'm like, put on the TD Jakes 10-minute motivational video, and I'm like, you know, I was in it. And so I think it served me for those years, but what lead me to changes when I actually came to realize, like, in order to get past certain things, I can't keep on using my trauma to fuel me, because then I'm keeping it alive. I like to say that, like, pain is not real unless you access the memory, right? So I keep on accessing the memory for energy, but I'm keeping the trauma current alive. I'm not letting the wound heal, because I'm getting power from that wound still being sore. I'm getting power from that wound still being painful. And so I also learned that that energy was not sustainable as well. Like, you almost have to, like, amp yourself up when you're in that mindset of, like, thinking about this and thinking about this and thinking about this happened and this, they said this about me and da-da-da-da. Like, you keep those negative narratives around yourself alive to, like, to maybe fuel, like, your energy for certain goals. So that was, like, working out for me and, like, or being ambitious, you know, or whatever the case may be. And so I moved to an inspiration mindset after I heard Abraham Hicks talking about that. And I was like, okay, so now my energy, and this is still a daily practice, is through inspiration rather than motivation, because that is your negative experiences that you metabolize. Inspiration is like that grander picture, that dreaming larger, and that is challenging in itself too, dreaming larger for yourself. And so that's the mindset that I try to put myself in to fuel myself towards my goals. And I think it's also it puts me in a place of I'm able to be lighthearted when I'm in that mindset. I'm able to actually have a true joyous, genuine joy and energy and gratitude when I'm in that space, because I'm like, I'm doing things because this is going to better me. I'm driving this forward because this is, like, my best self. And I adopted the mindset of, like, you know, as the architect, we both at the table looking at the drawings. I'm like, okay, so this gonna go right here. Like, we're both specting this thing out. And so now that I look at myself as a co-creator of my life, I'm not just a bystander or a victim, or things just happen to me. I really do look at myself as, like, I'm a co-creator in the things that I'm experiencing. And so that is where that shifted for me. And because that shifted, a lot of everything around me has changed because of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think it takes some people a long time to kind of realize that about themselves, or realize that for it to better themselves. So I applaud you. I see you trying.
You know what I'm saying? Thank you,
no,
girl.
I love that. No, that actually speaks to me too, because I'm kind of like in that space where all the motivational speakers are always like, okay, yeah, like of drawing from the pain and everything. But I love that inspiration, being able to look forward instead of looking back. So thank you for that, by the way.
Absolutely.
I do want to ask you about mentorship. Cause I know we talked about that a little earlier, and I love your method of finding mentors and, like, maintaining mentorship. 'Cause a lot of people can't maintain, which I am people. So let's talk about that.
Yes. Okay. So, in the most blunt way possible, me and Brittany, we did talk about this earlier, and then she was like, "What is your method?" And I was like, "Baby, run down on the plug, okay? Like, when you see them, run down on them." And one of my most dear friends and mentors, I'm so blessed to call her a friend, and really like a sister to me. She was at an event. I was astonished by this woman, like, and that is where I go from that motivation to inspiration mindset. That's so interesting that you asked that next, because when I saw her, it was like, oh my God, if that's how she gets to present herself to the world, that means I could present myself to the world in that way too.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Because when it was at a Apple conference here in Birmingham, held at a church with Tim Cook. She was on the panel with him, and, like, the way she spoke and the authority in which she spoke, and still very graceful and very I was about to say feminine, but I want to actually, since I know that's, like, something that's so overused now these days, she is a woman that inhabits her own skin. And although I did have that given to me as I was growing up, my mother is so beautiful that I feel like people didn't necessarily always see me as beautiful as well. Like, I would be on the school bus, and, like, one of the things he's like, well, your mom is so pretty, you must be adopted. And so I never really saw myself as aesthetically pretty. So even though I had that in my house, I didn't get that from my mom. Like, it's not the thing that she didn't give it to me. I think in my own way, I let outside narratives, like, take that away from me.
Okay, yeah.
So when I saw Sherelle up on that stage, it was just like, wow. And then, like, I'm like, I called her back then. I was like, you're like the Beyonce of tech. That's what I said to her. And I was like, can I show you my wireframe? And I've done that to plenty of people. And I think it worked for me, too, because I was so young. I think I was, like, 18 when I met Sherelle.
Man.
But, like, just like, girl, a little lamb. I was like, can I show you my wireframe? But, like, Yeah, so I just approach people, and I usually just pray that the boldness of doing that like works out for me.
Yeah.
Because most times they're just human, and they're as well. They just got flown in and got some accommodations. You know, they're just at a point in their life that's just a few stages before you. And yeah, I just like would email her if I was doing anything cool. I would text her. I'd be like, "Girl, this is what I just did." Like, or I remember, I know she had to be like, "Why does this girl FaceTime me out the blue?" I would like FaceTime her before my pitch competitions. I'd be in like my little business suit. I'm like, "I'm about to go do a pitch competition. I just wanted to call and let you know this is what I was doing."
Yeah.
And she'd be like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you, love." And she would be in like a whole nother country. I think I called her one time. She was like in Colombia with all the trees and the mountains behind her, and she's like, "You're gonna." Yeah, and she's like, "You're gonna do so well. I'm so proud of you." And I just like use that to like amp me up to go do my pitch.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is my method of going around getting mentors. But I'm lucky to really be surrounded by a really good community. Even now, like even some of the people that are more so like recent in my community, are just phenomenal. And I know I did touch on my mom for a second. I actually want to go back to her. That was my first mentor.
Yeah.
And I think I really, 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 really tried to get as much as I can from my mother, you know. And, like, she's sown so much into me. So, like, I think really, like, even if I would, like, when people be like, "Can you talk to my kids?" I'd be like, "Girl, just listen to your mom," because they really do want nothing but what's, like, the best for you. And I think I was able to lean into that more so than maybe my other peers. Like, when my mother would tell me things about, like, boys or around, like, you know, certain decisions or, like, little dilemmas that you know that you go through, like, when you're in school or, you know, when you're younger.
Yeah.
And, like, I really tried to take heed to as much. I like just blindly was like, I'm just going to have faith in that my parent wants the best for me and no one else can love me like my mother does. And so I feel like that also, just to like note that there alongside mentorship has brought me a long way. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Snap. Okay. Yeah, that's what that's really awesome that you talk about your mom being the first one. I think a lot of people, I don't know, maybe just but recently, because I'm always like I'm always kind of listening. I've been on YouTube too much, so that's one thing. But I know sometimes it's always like people have like a different, I don't know if it's the media encouraging this, but like a different view from what like of their life from what like their parents or the family kind of sees, and so it's always that like that inner rebellion that try to like start within the family. But I love that you're so close with your mom and you're able to like pursue and ideate with your mom and to grow with your mom. So I love that relationship that you have with her.
Yeah. No, I love her to pieces. That is my boo. That's my road dog, my ace coon boon.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think I won't say that we're perfect. We definitely do have our moments, like, you know, of arguments and like, you know, just mother and daughter things. Like we definitely do have our moments, but like I really don't take for granted that my mother's life experiences are also very unique. Like this is someone who's written a book. My mother is throughout her experiences, well, I'll start by saying this. I heard Oprah say this, and it's just really keyed into like what I have in my house. But like, my mother was born colored, and then she became at some point a Negro, and then she became black. Like she's born in the '60s. She's lived through all these different experiences. She's went through segregation, so like, you know, white and black water fountains, down to she's been in movies. She's a published author. She's been a part of major business deals between that people may not even know about. Like, you know, there was a collaboration between one of the most major boxers and rappers, and she was the one actually behind that deal that got them introduced. Like, there's so many different things. One of the products that was on Oprah's Favorite Things was actually my mother's patented product that had been stolen and put on Oprah's Favorite Things. Like, she's just had so many different life experiences. And I think I just thought everybody's parent was like that. My mother was a professional model. She's modeled across the country, like on national tours, but grew up very much so a tomboy. So like people are like, oh, your mom is so pretty now, but like she did not grow up that way. She very much like bloomed and like grew into herself. And like we have a long line on our side of maternally of like low self-esteem and low self-confidence. And I think traversing that for me right? So like there's certain things that she's conquered so that I don't have to. And so I think, I really wish that people took more advantage of their parental relationships, and not to say that I'm perfect at it, because child, I'm not by any means, but she really is my secret sauce. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I do want to ask, like, I guess, how do you plan? You might even plan to do this. I guess it's probably. I know it will come eventually, or even now, I'd say. But like, what do you plan to like mentor like others, or like even like pass down like what your mom gave you, like that inner like that inner growth, the inner spirit that you have on the inside of you? What do you think? How do you think you'll pass that on to like next generation, or even maybe some like a mentee or something like that?
Yeah. I try with mentees now. I have one that's really near and dear to my heart. Actually, she's going to the same school that I went to.
Oh yeah.
And like there's certain like she'll invite me. She's like, I'm getting inducted to like the National Honor Society. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming. And I put on my little auntie outfit, and I go down there with my little click clack and my heels. I'm like, let me go see my baby get inducted to the National Honor Society. So I try to have my moments like that, and but I try to do it without over-functioning. I know myself, I think, because of the certain things that I've experienced in life, like I'm likely to over-function. So my belief system is it's best for me to become my ultimate self, and I serve others in that way. I serve others because I'm doing that as well. Like that's something that I'll take into motherhood with me as well too, as long as I'm becoming my highest form, truest expression of being, and continuing to evolve and continue to welcome next phases and new iterations of myself to come in and to optimize who I am as a human being, not even just like on a metric level, but just who I am spiritually and who just holistically as a person. I think I've found that showing up that way is an impact to others as well. And I kind of like say it to like with Sherelle, just seeing her in that moment in her power had an impact on me. And so that's something that I do want to give others, with like, if I can show up as myself and be present and still be welcoming, like if someone ever were to approach me and ask me to be a mentor for them, I definitely would do it. I'd definitely be open to it. But that's one thing that, although I have people in my life that I consider like my mentees, the number one priority for me is also to make sure that I'm driving myself forward. And because I do that, I'll be able to offer anyone else that can be served by me much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, girl.
Thank you.
Okay, I love that. Okay. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. It really inspires me, by the way. You're really inspired, by the way. So let's just say that. But I do have one more question, I guess, last question. I do want to ask, like, with planning to move forward and like, or see what's next, like, what is, well, if you don't mind sharing, what is the next for you believe, or even what you're doing now?
I think what's next for me, I really am enjoying the space that I am in professionally within the venture space. Yeah. Although I'm an investment associate and I do have like my hand in the investing that we do within my role, I am open to exploring that further and adding, some Rae'Mahs into like the private equity or, investing venture capital mix. So I think professionally, I think that is what's next. But I think like we kind of talked about earlier, I'm all about allowing space for y'all to move in my life. So I say that now. I could probably watch this back and be like, oh, I ended up doing something different. But I like completely like to leave room for him to readjust my life. So I think the next part for me professionally is, going forward within the venture capital space, being a managing director of a firm, or being a managing partner or, starting one, launching my own VC firm. I think that's what I see for my life going forward. And I think doing that and doing it well, and if I can bring just myself authentically into that space, I think would be very impactful. I think overall. Sometimes people come up to me like, you know what, I just love how you're just you. But I feel like for just speaking to like black people, any black people or black young professionals that could be watching, you should be yourself in all of your roles because that is very impactful how you show up. So I'm like, you know, if I can be in VC, managing director, and like maintain my anti-code switching, I think that would be great. I think personally wise, I would love to find love. Maybe not find love, but having a romantic love, like welcome to my life. I think I am very much so surrounded by love now, but I think, you know, I would love to have, you know, a romantic partner, welcoming in children, you know, at some point, you know, and doing that within like marriage. And I think, yeah, just being that bitch. Yeah. That's the next thing. But no, I do want to say thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been such a blessing just to hear your story and I feel like I'm getting inspired all over again because I remember looking up and like, oh, this girl, she's so cool. So this is awesome. I want to thank you so much.
My name is Rae'Mah Henderson, and this is the Apprentice Podcast.